Edwards. Nice to have you here. Before I start, I just need to give a big shout out and a big thanks to Robert Paris, the councillor for Pleasantville, for taking his time out this morning, allowing us to use his office for this podcast. Because as you know, it's mobile and I have no real setup. So good to have you on, man. I see you're looking to start looking to officially launch your party.
Yeah.
Next week. What kind of support are you getting so far right now?
It has been a lot of support, a lot of positive feedback, because I think we're at a point in Trinidad and Tobago's history where it's really a defining moment. People want something fresh, something that they've been talking about behind closed doors and on street corners and in backyards for quite some time, and here presents an opportunity for that to happen. So a lot of people are fed up of the system as it stands right now, where we quite often say we have a two-party system. I personally don't believe that, but the more we talk about it, the more we tend to give it legs. But this country is big enough for other entities to come forward, organizations, institutions, to step up to the plate and add it to the national narrative. So I think this is what is happening, and a lot of young people are coming on board, a lot of intellectuals as well, because when you study, let's say, things at the university, and you look at the reality of Trinidad and Tobago, you know that we have solutions available. We have minds here locally. So we've been getting a lot of cross-sectional support, and for me, it's really heartwarming.
Yeah, I think, so you said we have a two-party system that, yes, we have it, but not really. And I think what that is like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Correct.
Yeah. So, we keep on talking about this two-party system we have, and nobody wants to step up and do anything, and that's why we have this two-party system. But I think, I think that's why we need people like you, that just ready to come out there and say, hey, enough is enough. And it's good. It's good to see somebody, your age, you're actually younger than me, and in politics. I don't think I know anybody else doing that much,
Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of persons, I understand that they have a legitimate fear or legitimate concern when it comes to politics or speaking about politics in an open setting because of the size of the country as well. So on one end, we're a huge country when you compare it to the other Caribbean islands, and we're a small country when you think about it on the global context. But when you think as well about persons working in the public service or persons who are in private practice, working in the private sector, but their bosses may be aligned one way or the other, everyone is fearful that if I speak out, if I appear on a platform, if I show support for something, that I may be ostracized, I may be blacklisted, my opportunities may be quite few as a result of that. So persons have a legitimate fear. Now, over the years, I have been placed, thankfully, in a position where I don't depend on the state for employment. I don't depend on the state for anything in particular. So if I were to be on a full-out blackout, that's not really going to affect me in a significant way at all. So I have been placing myself or working to put myself in a position where I'm not dependent, and I think that's where a lot of young people need to be looking at as well. Today, the average young person wants to get educated and find a job right after, and it's usually a job with the government, or at least for the government to provide this platform or the space, the opportunities for employment. But for me, that's the wrong kind of thinking. And it even ties back into the kind of education that we receive. It teaches us to be employees, not really employers or entrepreneurs. So with that kind of thinking being instilled, it causes a problem where young people or people in general are dependent on the state. And when you have that kind of dependency, it's like you're dancing to the song played by the Bible, the master, the state.
Yeah, so who is it that is responsible for this type of education? Because you can't blame children for learning what they're taught. I mean, if that's all they're being taught.
Yeah.
So you're saying that is something that we need to look at in our, let's say our education system. I mean, we still need a lot of it, like with the history, the social studies, the sciences, the maths, we still need those subjects.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I think we need to have some sort of focus on creativity, not just like art and music and art, yes. But I think like critical thinking, entrepreneurship, even philosophy in some cases. Teaching people how to think for themselves. How to formulate an argument, how to recognize certain fallacies, avoid them, and discredit them. Because we have this with our political discourse. A lot of it is ad hominem attacks, where I will attack you as a person. You know, like if I'm a PNM supporter, like let's say I'm a UNC supporter and you're black, right? So I think, okay, you're starting a party, but you're black, so you're PNM. You know, and I might attack you and saying, well, you know, I mightn't really look at the merits of your arguments just because I already judging you for who you are, and that's why I'm attacking. And I think that's something that we need to promote and teach, but not just in schools, but we need to come forward and teach everybody that, you know, to put aside your biases and start to look at the conversations that are really going on, because I think we're at a point now where we need to start having these conversations, you know?
Yeah, well, that kind of education, or teaching education, is taking place across Trinidad and Tobago, but the problem is that it's taking place in silos. You have civil society, so all the NGOs, NFOs, and not-for-profit organizations, all of these bodies are doing work, exceptional work across the country, but in the absence of political will, there's only so much that you can do. So, and I always use this example. Well, I've been working in civil society for a decade now. I always use this example where one of the things that I advocate for is comprehensive sexuality education, a part of adolescent sexual and reproductive health care, which is a right for every single young person in Trinidad and Tobago to have access to sexual health care, access to not only just healthcare, but to the education that goes along with that. You have a situation where you have to be 18 years and over in order to access sexual and reproductive health care. So if you have, well, as we know, we do have 16-year-olds and so on having sex, they cannot walk into any doctor's office and ask to be tested for HIV. They cannot receive treatment for any STIs or STDs that they may have without a parent or a guardian present. Now, we have a society where the reality is parents and children are not talking about sex. You are not seeing parents coming forward and having that conversation, be it about the birds and the bees, whatever it is. That's not happening because their parents didn't do that for them, and their parents didn't do that for their parents, and so on and so forth. So there has to be a break in the cycle somewhere. But while that is taking place, you need to have systems around that are set up to facilitate certain occurrences or instances. So we would advocate that, yes, we should have doctors employing the different models or standards to allow for testing and so on to take place. But in the absence of government legislation or policies, it's just talk on the ground. We're just agitating, we're advocating, we're activating, but the government has the final say. So this is why it's important for us to come with a united voice and start to look at the holes of power authority in this country and ensure that we have people who are representing the interests of civil society in the parliament. So I see this as necessary moving forward. Because everyone is operating in silos and not getting the kind of support moving forward, it makes it very difficult for us to progress in this country. So there needs to be a national agenda, a national discourse, a national vision. And I'm not even talking about necessarily Vision 2020 or 2030, because that seemed to have been one-sided, put forward by a particular political party, and not gaining the support on the other side and from all the various actors.
Okay, so you're saying the aims weren't one-sided, but the support was one-sided.
Yeah.
So because some of the aims were very admirable aims that were really just for the betterment of the country.
Yes.
But again, yes, we have that. You know, the PNM will do something, the UNC come and they shut it down. The UNC do something, PNM come and they shut it down, and it's just this back and forth. Yeah.
So that does not work in favor of the citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago at all.
Never.
So we need to come together. If it is something that is a document, a vision, a strategy that is coming from civil society, from the citizens themselves, and being presented to the parties, to the parliament, to the government, and being implemented, I think that is what is going to make the difference, because you have these political parties with their own agendas, and I'm saying that even now coming in as the political leader of a political party, The difference in my case is that I see these things, and I am ensuring that I'm building in systems into this party so that we aren't just like the other parties. We aren't seen as just having this particular agenda and foregoing the interests of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, and how you insulate yourself from those biases and so on. You have to constantly be in contact with the people on the ground. You have to be liaising, consulting, asking for feedback. I can tell you this, I know for a fact a lot of people are saying, well, let me see what this party has to offer, let me see what their manifesto is like, and I have to constantly say to them, well, how about I ask you, what do you want in a manifesto, or what do you want to see, and let's incorporate that. So it's not me simply saying, here, take this. I'm asking you to build this with me as we go along, so that you feel a part of the process, you are a part of the process, and this is your own thing. We were born in a time where we had the two major political parties already established, already existing. We had no role or say in crafting its constitution, developing what it looks like. But now I'm presenting this where you can be a part of it, where anyone can actually help build this together. So I think that's a major difference.
So what sort of systems you putting in place to achieve this? Because let's say you get 200,000 followers, right? Well, 200,000 supporters. How are you going to, what systems are you going to put in place to give these 200,000 people, equal say in this, or to get their voices heard?
Sure. So for one, the constitution, it has to be a strong constitution. Obviously, it can't be too robust insofar as you can't change this, or it's too prescriptive. It has to still take into consideration future issues that may come around and have the systems in place to make changes where necessary. But you have a code of conduct, all right, to start with. So these are the guiding principles that persons have to follow, and you have the systems in place where you have, let's say, those disciplinary committees to ensure that persons stick to the codes of conduct and observe those things. Feedback, as I mentioned, is very important. We have our website up already, progressives.tt. Anyone can interface with it. So you can go up there, send in feedback, send in your comments, question and query accordingly. So we may not necessarily be able to come every Monday morning and meet with you in Mayaro or Sangre Grande or Cedras or whatever it is, but you have a channel for communication. And it's something that I don't see effectively with the other parties.
Yeah, so that was my main concern, because a lot of people have ideas, a lot of people have issues that they want tackled, but they don't know who to talk to get that issue addressed, Like, everybody will just wait until, somebody who has the power to address an issue addresses an issue that they have interest in, and then they will support it. But there's no way for that change to start from our level. Just one more time, what was that website? Is
Progressives.tt.
Progressives.tt.
So our shortened title, the Progressives. So Progressive Party, Progressives. Much how you have Democratic Party, Democrats, Republican Party, Republicans. I wanted to get away from this three acronym kind of thing that we're famous for here in the Caribbean. So you have, let's say, if it were the Progressive Blue Party, the first thing people will say PPP.
Yeah.
So and this thing, and I wanted something different. Like, we are the progressives, and progressive has a particular connotation to it. We're always talking about change, but I don't think that what we need in this country is change. We've had change. We need progress in Trinidad and Tobago.
Not all change is progress.
And progress, no two ways about it, has to do with moving forward, has to do with positive growth and development, pushing ahead. So change could be exchange, could be change for the worse, and so on. Also, progressivism or center-left politics is the underlying philosophy of the party. I don't think that any other political party well-established and operating right now can say definitively, this is our ideology. It's not written anywhere, so we aren't sure. What we know of is what your agenda may be. Well, we want to get this one arrested or locked up, or these are the problems. We're here to remove this government and to step in and so on. But no, what is your ideology? What is it that
they
underpins?
Have no overarching sort of goal or guidance system. So they just kind of, they'll have their agenda and just try to satisfy that agenda.
Yeah. And the thing is, with ideologies, you are able to, as a common person, you're able to anticipate what some of the plans and programs may be. Because if you understand, let's say, center-left politics, all right, it's not on, it's in the center, but leaning a bit to liberalism.
You could explain what exactly center-left politics is, because I'm sure a lot of people in Trinidad aren't exactly familiar with the right and the
Sure,
left and
yeah.
Democrat and Republican, they'll think that's, American. So
Right.
what exactly is center-left politics?
All right, so on the right, you will have conservatives or persons who believe in systems that are usually meant to enhance the reality of a certain class or grouping of persons in society. All right. Liberals, on the other hand, look more to radicalism and let's get things done in a particular way, and there needs to be loosening up of certain systems. Center as it suggests, is in the center of that. Center-left politics for us, what it looks at is utilizing current systems that are in place to achieve particular agendas. So we believe firmly in policy. Policy is a good way to make changes in society. So once you have the proper policies, Trinidad and Tobago, we lack policies and good policies at that. So I remember we had the gender policy being laid in Parliament, but the gender policy didn't tackle things such as abortion and did not acknowledge that there are other genders. So it only looks at male and female, which is sex, all right, and heterosexuality. But Trinidad and Tobago is, well, no pun intended, but a rainbow nation. And so you have all of these different persons who subscribe to different beliefs. Why don't we take that into consideration? We don't have a youth policy at the moment. The last youth policy expired in 2017. We're in 2019, heading into 2020. So these are some of the issues. So under a center-left government, what you would see is a lot more policies that guides practices in the country that leads to legislation, because the end goal is always to have the proper legislation in place and to have the cultural shifts that are necessary. So to make it as simple as possible, we're not stiff, but at the same time, we're not loose in terms of how our approach to governance would be. Yeah. So it's always consulting, always getting feedback, always looking at a progressive state, anticipating things that will come up in the future and dealing with those things now. So it's not simply about treating with what we have as present-day issues. It's treating with that as well as anticipating. So in technology, we want to see a lot of technology. We want to see the ease of doing business. We want to see smaller government or more moderate government. So the government does not need to be in your business, in your bedroom, as they say, telling you what to do and what not to do. The regulations that the government is supposed to put in place should be guided by actual actors or persons in society guiding that. So the role of government, we see it, should be about providing the right regulatory framework for the country to allow the private sector to thrive, to allow civil society to thrive and carry on with this work, and to allow all the other sectors to have an even say and ability to move freely in this country with the right regulatory framework.
Right. So it's like to create an even playing field.
Yes.
As well as allow ways for people to be taken care of if they're unable to take care of themselves. Because you'll have institutions like the healthcare institution, that would need to be able to take care of people that can't afford to go to the hospital themselves. Actually, I had a video that I released this morning. I don't know if you saw it, where I talked to Rocky Cooley. He's a local bodybuilder, type 1 diabetic, lovely guy. And he was saying that the diabetic medication we have actually killing people. And that's the one from CDAP. And the thing is, right, this is not a problem with the doctors, because when he told his doctor about it, which it was a whole story. But anyway, he found out about it from somebody else. He came and talked to his doctor again, and his doctor knew. And his doctor was just like, well, yeah, this is what being provided under CDAP. So this is what we have to give people, because people can't afford their own medication. A lot of people can't afford their own medication, And, well, luckily he was able to pay for his own medication, and that was the proper medication that not going to kill you in the middle in the night, But, I mean, I think that points to, that's indicative of like a bigger problem, where we have this institution that people are literally relying on for life, and is giving them things that killing them.
But that's corruption in Trinidad and Tobago. Corruption is systemic. It's in every single thing that we do, and that's the fact of the matter. So when you think about the CDAP program, for instance, you have to blame the state, the pharmaceutical companies, the pharmacies, and the doctors, because they all have a role to play in that, and they all are aware. You have situations where, and this is something that I was privy to recently, where the pharmacies, how they make their money from the CDAP program apparently is based on line items. So let's say, for instance, you are a CDAP recipient, you come in, with your prescription, they will ask you to split your prescription so that instead of coming and taking a one-off, be it for 3 months worth of medication or 1 month worth of medication, they will say, well, take some now and then come back after. So therefore, they will benefit from that line item twice. And I think it's $8 per item or per line item or something to that effect. But I know that it's a very corrupt practice. You also have within the health sector,
So the line item doesn't have like the amount as well, because if you have a line item for 3 months of medication, should not be less than a line item for 1 month of medication.
You would think so. The common person would think so.
I need to find somebody and see that part, because
So
I feel like I'm just going down a rabbit hole here.
Yeah, it is crazy. And look, at the same time, we have, and this is public information because it was a part of a joint select committee, we have, upon last checks, and it probably increased by now, $88 million worth of expired drugs in warehouses in Shagaramas. Yeah, and imagine those drugs could have been used, let's say, to send off the islands when they would have faced natural disasters and so on. So this is over. I think it would have been a 10-year period that this would have accumulated. You have a situation where procurement in this country is a big problem. So the RHAs, because they are in one sense a kind of standalone body that could conduct their own affairs and business accordingly with their boards and so on. So the RHAs will see to NIPDEC, because they are the procuring entity for those drugs. They would say, well, we need all these drugs, etc. And NIPDEC will go out and tender accordingly, get the chief medical officer to sign off on the amount and so on, and procure the drugs. But the RHA also has the ability to procure on its own. And you would have people who are associated with the RHA who may go out and say, well, hey, I have these drugs for X, Y, and Z. So let's say you're paying $5 per tablet under the arrangement that NIPDEC would have gotten. Under the RHE leasing independently, they may get $8 per tablet or $10 per tablet. But because of kickbacks and so on, you will go with that $10.
Yeah.
And your people who are making money, and these drugs that have been bought by NIPDEC stays in a container because you already got it here, so you don't need to go and take this from NIPDEC. So
you're basically paying for it twice. We're paying a cheaper price for drugs that we're not using and expiring and going to waste, and then we take the money and paying more money for the drugs that we already have here being expired, just so some people could get kickbacks for it.
Yeah, and one of the things that could ease all of this is technology. Because if you have the system that manages your intake and your outtake to show that this is how much we sent to this RHA or to this health facility and so on, you can track these things so that there will not be double buying. Also, you should be able to anticipate that, okay, this is how much this RHA took over the past 5 years and how much they actually use, so that if they come forward and say, well, we need 100,000 tablets, but you can say, well, your records show that you've been only using 20,000 per year or so, you can now say, well, we recommend that this should not be procured in this amount. Let's take this much now and move forward. Also, and this came up some years ago in the press, where you have certain health facilities having a lack of drugs and then others having a surplus. That should not be happening on a properly monitored system. So a lot of these entities do not want technology to come into play because it will phase out corruption. If it is that you have to be just going in a room with books and signing people, corruption can flourish in this country. But once we have the proper systems in place to monitor, to evaluate, to track, you would see corruption being lessened significantly to the point where it will be near eradicated. And as people will say that's probably in utopia, but at least let's work toward that.
Yeah, so my thing is, okay, I don't know if it's possible to fully get rid of corruption, but the thing is that we have so much ways to be corrupt in Trinidad right now that there's definitely a lot we could do to make a very big difference.
Yep.
You know, a lot of things that we are able to do right now because we have the people for it, we have the expertise, we have the knowledge, we have the drive, you know, so we have everything we need here. I honestly think a lot of this is being actively stopped because, like you said, why aren't we looking to to upgrade our systems, to take advantage of technology more. We have world-class programmers down here. When I went to UE, I had friends that I was in UE with, just my year alone, that I think one of them work in Microsoft now, right? I had another one, another friend that he went to some programming competition for Microsoft and won. You know, so like we have real good programmers down here, you know, and we have people like you that want to make this change. So I think there's definitely something actively stopping it. And I think that is something that needs to be found and needs to be stopped.
Yeah, the simple fact is that Trinidad and Tobago's narrative, for one, is not managed by Trinbagonians. These things that our narrative is managed externally. I was thinking on this just recently, where you have the United States Embassy and these different consular offices and so on issuing bulletins, travel advisories about or against traveling to certain areas in Trinidad and Tobago, traveling to Trinidad and Tobago in general. But you will never see Trinidad and Tobago issuing an advisory saying, well, if you're going to New York, don't go to Harlem, or don't go to here, or don't go to there.
Yeah.
Because on our end, that would be bad for business, because we are fearful that, okay, next thing sanctions are imposed on us, or whatever the case is. But we don't think that we have power when it comes to the United States or these other entities, these countries, putting out these advisories that work against us through there. So we just stand up and we take the licks, as they say. So you have these narratives being developed and being pushed about our country by non-residents, non-citizens. And then when you go even lower on the food chain, you come to internally, you have those who are the ones behind the scenes, who are calling the shots, as they say, saying that this is how things should operate in our country, and we feel powerless in the face of that, because we think, well, our staining fingers is not going to do anything much. It makes no sense voting because our narrative is already written. It makes no sense opposing or standing up or doing anything. We just have to see about ourselves. So it pushes that whole notion of individualism, where, hey, you know what, let me don't bother with that. Once I could eat, once I could feed my children, once I have money to do what I have to do on the weekend, then I'm fine. Anything beyond that is higher than my pay grade, or higher than me, above me, and I just can't do anything. So you fuel this whole individualism, which works in favor of those on top or behind the scenes, because once they are benefiting and once their agenda is being pushed, they are fine. And I don't like to talk about these things in the abstract, but the simple fact is that even I, sitting down here, I can't simply point out and say, well, this is the one who calling the shots from behind the scenes or what have you. But we know there are shot callers, because when you think it's this one, trust and believe, he or she may be very low on the food chain. So we have this kind of deep-rooted problem in society, and how we eradicate that, you have to have unity in the country. We have divisiveness taking place throughout the country, and that just works in favor if we can't come together. So I'm reading even up to today with the whole Freedom of Information Act, the amendments that the government is pushing in Parliament now, where you make an application to a public entity for access to information, and it will take, it's supposed to have taken under the present system 30 days for a response to be made. But now they are extending that to 90 days. And then further to it, if the state or the entity wants to deny that request, it has to be done by the Attorney General, who will have 90 days in order to respond and say no. So now you have 180 days, because that 90 days isn't a part of or running parallel to the initial 90 days. So 180 days to get information from a public entity. And this information should be accessible, easily accessible. So we are at a time.
And under what grounds could the Attorney General deny this request?
So, well, those are the things that I haven't gone into to the details of right now. But I would imagine, based on trade secrets, national security, and so on. Those tend to be the main tenets for denial of information, public information. But if it is that I am aware that this is a commercial secret or trade secret, I would not challenge it if I know after doing my research that this is a legitimate claim. But if I am coming forward and I know Afro Raymond has been doing excellent work in Trinidad and Tobago in trying to get information on, let's say, the hotels, trying to get what the balance sheet is for like Hilton and Hyatt and Magdalena, so that we can look and see, well, if it is making profit, if we are benefiting as a country. Imagine a simple thing like that. We, as the average person, can't get that information. I have money jumping up in there, as the saying goes, because my tax-paying money is going to subsidize costs at these hotels, and my money would have been placed in the construction of these facilities that are now managed by these multinational organizations, these brands, and I need to mind my interest. It comes like a credit union. If I am putting money, if I'm a member of this credit union, shouldn't I be able to see our records to know whether we made profit, where were the issues, where did we improve, where are we regressing on? So these are some of the things that are counterproductive to a progressive society, in my view.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even know that. So I thought this sort of information would have just been easily available. I didn't even know you would have to make a request under the Freedom of Information Act just to get those balance sheet information.
And look, so and you're seeing, I think, in recent time, there have been a lot of journalists who've been using the FIOA to gain information, and I feel as though that is what has brought us to the place now where the government wants to tighten on how we go through that process. And I look, recently we had where this Ravi Maraj went to the Privy Council and was successful there. And the Attorney General said, and the Prime Minister said, well, we will release the information on the whole Malcolm Jones situation, where the advice was given by Vincent Nelson, QC. And at the same time, while you say, or giving the assurance that this is going to be released, you're now putting tighter restrictions on access to information. Is that a consequence? I don't think so. So we have to be woke, as they say. We have to look around and see what is going on. But because the average person, when you think about that mother of three who is working 2 jobs and has even no time for herself on a weekend because she's looking to put food on the table, she has no time to stop and read headlines necessarily, or to go into onto the Parliament's website and read about the pieces of legislation that is being put forward for debate by the government. She does not have that time. So you have a population that is desperate to survive, and when you have that kind of a narrow view of survival, nothing else matters. And this is how you can have pieces of legislation being slipped into the Parliament and being passed easily, like a thief in the dead of night. So thankfully, we have persons like the Suniti Maharaj, the Afro Raymond, these independent thinkers who are looking on and seeing what is taking place and highlighting these issues.
Yeah, I think, you ever heard of the Maslow hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
Right, so I think a lot of our lack of awareness is partially due to that. You know, as a society, the majority of us are still on the bottom rung of that Maslow hierarchy of needs. I mean, because a lot of people still struggling to find shelter, to find food every day. You know, and if you're struggling down here, there's no way you could elevate your level of thinking to start thinking critically about these things, or as you said, to even start questioning these policies. Like, you're not going to study policies. But I think we might be reaching a tipping point. I don't know. I don't wanna call anything, because I know how complacent Trinis could be. But I think right now, like, the divide is beginning to get bigger. You know, you have people are working harder and having less, and I think they're starting to just realize that something here not right. You know, things just not adding up. So that's why I think, you know, we might be in a position now to finally attack this 2-party system we have, because you have people that used to support UNC and they used to support PNM, and now they realizing that, listen, nobody getting any benefit from this, you know, so we need somebody else to come out. But then you have the problem of, well, if you don't want to support UNC, you don't want to support PNM, who are you going to support? You know, because, okay, I mean, I'll watch you. You have some good views, some good ideas. I like where your heart is. I like your passion. You know, but the thing is, I had a lot of time to look at your stuff and read up on your stuff.
Sure.
You know, it's very hard to make a difference if you do have a following as yet, because you know, if you're not in the news every day, people just not gonna see you. You know, it's like, how do you get people to see you when they're not looking? And people just don't have a chance to look. You know, I think that's a bit of the problem as well.
Right. So, and to just say from the onset that I am a supporter of any individual, any group, any organization that wants to step up and represent, to provide representation to citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So all these other third parties, as they were referred to, I am in support of them stepping up and coming forward. It cannot be I'm cutting down my brother here or my sister here who is looking to start something because he or she does not see themselves fitting into what currently exists. And that was even my startup with all of this. I, in 2017, registered the symbol, the guiding flame, which is our symbol for the Progressive Party, with the Elections and Boundaries Commission. But I had been thinking over that 2-year period, is this the right decision? Am I sure about this? Am I mentally prepared and emotionally prepared for this ride that is going to take place? So I spent those 2 years thinking that through, also crafting the Constitution, working on that. And then I just came to the realization that these political parties that exist, because I have been approached on both sides, my morals and values don't align with theirs. And that was the simple fact of it. How can I associate myself with something that may be showing signs of corruption, that the views contend with what I am thinking or seeing as a better Trinidad and Tobago? So all of these things were factors in me deciding that I have to start my own thing. I was not seeing anyone else that I could have just wholeheartedly given myself over to or thrown my support behind. So that allowed for this to happen. So you have to be very strategic. That is what is going to make the difference. So as an organization, you have to be able to know what your strengths are, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats, and so a SWOT test on your organization. So one of the things that we obviously have going for us is that we're young, and you have a generation now that is connected, heavily connected, thanks to the Internet of Things and our mobile devices. You can get information around easier. So small bite-sized pieces of information, people will lap up that, as we see, in no time. At least if I can spend a minute just being educated on some kind of information that is necessary to my survival or my progress in Trinidad and Tobago, I will be more inclined to just listen to that. And when I have found this to be something that I'm concerned with, I will now go and follow the page or read up more and get more information. So it's about the bait and hook, so to see, but not one that is negative. You know that you want to get people over to listen, at least. You put out bite-sized pieces of information, you get them to come in. So you have had a lot of persons who are intelligent, who will do well for this country, but their approach has been wrong. Going out into communities, building consensus, allowing communities to be a part and to buy into this process is necessary. I can't just sit in a room and decide I'm going to run for elections and sit down, who knows, behind a mic or a poster or some text and expect people to follow. I have to go into the communities. I have to get my message out there. I have to, and as crazy as it may sound, Watson Duke is a good example in one thread of how you can get people to pay attention and to listen.
He definitely gets people to pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to give him props to that.
Yeah, so while I may not go extreme like that, it is to get people to listen, and once they've started listening, provide them with good content, things to continue to keep them listening and interested and being a part of building this thing out.
You see, no, that is an approach, right? That I've always been wondering why nobody else took this approach, because the approach we have right now is let's give you all the reasons to not vote for that person. Like that's what the UNC and PNM mostly use. Like, look at all the bad things they did, don't vote for them. You know, so it's like they don't really have a real idea of the direction that they want to go. It's like trying to direct somebody to a place, but you only tell them what roads to not turn down.
Yes.
You'll never reach there, you know?
Yes.
So that's why attacking your opponents and, you know, just perpetuating that negativity never helps. What you need to do is just ignore the negativity if you have to, because, I mean, everybody going to see it, right? And just, that's why I like what you're doing. Like, you're focusing on the positives, the progressiveness, you know? So, like, you have these things that you want to achieve and you're working towards something, you know? You're not working away from anything else or against everything else. Because at the end of the day, no, I like to try to stay as neutral as possible.
Sure.
So I say I don't support any political party.
Yeah.
right? What I support are ideas. I don't even support people. Like, so
Gotcha.
you have a lot of good ideas, so I support your ideas. But if
Yes.
you start off bad ideas tomorrow, well, I'm not going to support those ideas. You know, and I think our youth right now are a lot more critical minded because they've just been so bombarded with information since growing up. I mean, you have children basically born on Facebook these days. So I think they have the capacity to actually, you know, look beyond the narratives that are being presented to them and look beyond the people that people trying to get them to support, you know, and actually look at the ideas and try to analyze these ideas for themselves. So I think that coupled with the fact that, you know, you have people just wondering why things not adding up.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if we ripe as yet, but I think we're starting to ripen, you know, to see some real change. I think I have no idea how long it's going to take.
It's sad that we have had to only now get there, but chaos breeds opportunity.
Yeah, and necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah, so we have to make use of the time that we're in and what is taking place right now, and hopefully as a people, because Trinbagonians, we're resilient people. We have survived all kinds of things, and I think that this is something that we will survive as well. Now, I personally believe the most dangerous people in our society today in this country are not the criminals, are not
Definitely
the persons
not.
who are corrupt and so on. They are those who say, I am red till I'm dead and yellow till I'm dead, because you're not patriotic. You're not having a nationalist view at all. You're not seeing your country as a priority. You are blindly supporting and following something. The day that I can see a politician who would say that, hey, if this party that I'm a part of is going in a particular direction that I don't like, and you walk away from that, then you have my respect. But it also can't be that situation where you defend, and then finally you look down the road and you say, okay, nah, I've had enough of this, because you've had all these signs. Fool me once, fool me twice, and going down the line like that. So I think we need people to be pro Trinidad and Tobago. You need to see us moving along a particular trajectory and being able to support what that progress looks like. You cannot be blinded by a political party. If I did not have to start a political party, I would not. I don't want to go through the stress. This is a lot of stress, and it's not going to get easier.
Yes,
So,
that's almost that's very similar thinking to this podcast, you know, because I was just thinking, you know, why am I not seeing somebody just, you know, focusing on just these ideas and conversations, because like you say, you have a lot of ideas built in silos, right? So my silo is like the bars and stuff. You know, when I go in a bar and I'm talking to some people or whatever, I mean, people that you would probably just pass in the streets or look at and think, oh, they're idiots or whatever, you know? But you realize, no, it's like almost everybody I talk to, right? They have a lot more intelligence than I would have ever given them credit for until I sit down and talk to them, and you realize that this country is not as divided as we see it is. It's not as divided as you see in the media. You know, like you might say, all right, you have the red and ready and the PNM people, and they don't like Indian people, and you think, yes, we have a little bit of racism still in Trinidad, but for the most part, I think we are very united. It's just that we do not see it. And I was not seeing anybody showing us exactly how united we are, you know?
Because it's the narrative
that
that is being managed on our part. So you would have, and people say it all the time, that the media would cover certain things from a particular angle. Now, I just submitted my master's final project, so my thesis, and it's alternative dispute resolution in a litigious society. So looking at Trinidad and Tobago, and are we ready to really accept things like mediation, negotiation, arbitration, conciliation, which are already built into our system, which there are already outlets for, which is already operating parallel to our traditional justice system. And a lot of people are not tapping into it. And when I questioned what is the role of the media in this society, a lot of the respondents kept saying, and these are high-ranking officials, because the persons that I interviewed include the Chief Justice, the Attorney General, the Chief Personnel Officer, the President of the PSA, and persons who manage a lot of, on behalf of the government, organizations. So the Legal Aid and Advisory Authority, the mediation, community mediation program unit, conciliation unit, all of these. So we're talking about professionals who are the helm of these organizations. And they unanimously were saying that the media does not seem to understand how to carry across particular messages, not to cause people to get in their emotions and be riled up. So angles, how we take things. So you would see group slams politician or what have you. So it's very adversarial in terms of the headlines and the approaches, and it's because of sensationalism. But if you see the media pulling back from that and presenting information, not for the purpose of selling newspapers, but for giving information, you would see a difference. But private media is driven by profit.
Yes.
So that is where you have some of these issues. So when you pick up a newspaper headline, I can say this, for instance, the Prime Minister, I listened to his post-cabinet press briefing recently, and he was being grilled about this whole Venezuelan crisis and the registration process. And one reporter asked him, so if these Venezuelans start getting married, is the government seeing this as a threat or an issue? And he said, well, love is love. If they get married or whatnot, what can we do as the government? That is between them and the person, who have you. And that I saw was a headline, love is love.
Yeah, which is like a by the way kind of
Yeah, it's okay to for the Venezuelans to be married in Trinidad. Now the government will recognize the marriages of Venezuelans. Now, for me, I would see that as a headline that can present a lot of issues for us, because if now the Venezuelans are looking at this and seeing, well, okay, we could do X, Y, and Z, or it does not even give the credibility to the Prime Minister for all the statements that he would have laid out before, which I think he put forward a good case, and he even came down to the point where, hey, we're really kind of looking at this in a particular way, because when you think about Trinbagonians going to Canada and to the US, and he said that there is not a country in the world that you will not find a Trinidadian or a Trinbagonian who has migrated. So who are we to judge? You understand? So he's calling for humanity, and that is the right thing to do. But because emotions, tensions are so high in the country over this issue, you would have people building on that narrative. So we are in a place right now where we're in the Trumpian era, where you're seeing around the world this kind of divisive language being spewed. You're seeing Brexit taking place in the EU. In the United States, a wall is being built or is seems to be the government's answer for dealing with that immigration crisis. You're seeing here in the Caribbean where Jamaica is looking at whether or not it should stay in CARICOM. So this is the world over taking place. And if we don't manage these things properly, you would have a world of individual nations who are competing against one another, who can competing with one another. And we need more than ever now unity across the world, because it comes like we've made so much progress over the years. For us now to undo all of that and to regress seems imminent. We need to change that.
I think the real concern people have is that, okay, Venezuela is 20 times the size of Trinidad population-wise, right? I think you had, it was 1 million people so far fled Venezuela, but either way, if enough Venezuelans come across here, they could crash our economy just because they have more people willing to run away than we have the ability to support.
Sure.
All right. In terms of that comment, love is love. The thing is, I don't think the government should get involved in people's personal affairs like that. So it might have sounded bad. Yes, it was over sensationalized. But at the end of the day, most countries you go to, there is allowances for you to gain citizenship through marriage anyway. And we have that with all the other countries. So we can't just, victimize Venezuela for victimizing Venezuela's sake. But at the same time, the concerns people have are how are the resources going to be shared, right? Because they're not going to come in and work as ministers and build a new movie town, and take over the jobs of the people that don't have to worry about their jobs right now. They actually had an economist from UE did a study a couple of weeks ago saying that the Venezuelans coming in would be a good thing, it would promote growth for Trinidad, right? Yeah. But his argument for it was that it would promote growth because instead of businesses having to pay Trini people a certain wage, they could fire the Trinis and they could pay the Venezuelans minimum wage. So now these companies, they have more money to let them grow their business. So yes, I guess it will promote GDP, it will promote growth, but when you're looking at, you're basically
trade off.
you're given a smaller piece of pie to the people that need that entirety of the piece of pie, you know? So you're taking less and you're sharing it amongst more people now, and that's where people concerns coming in. You know, and it's not the policymakers, it's the people on the ground that have these concerns.
It really is how you look at it, because that is one legitimate way to look at it. But at the same time, as someone had written on social media recently, where you have Prestige Holdings advertising, them now putting their job applications in Spanish, all right? And apparently people are up in arms, well, what craziness is this? Someone made the statement excellently that Prestige Holdings has been for years, for months, however long, been putting out ads talking about they're hiring. And now that they've decided, their private company has decided that, hey, let's try to make these things available to these Venezuelans. Now, people are saying, well, they're taking our jobs. What jobs? The ones that you weren't applying for before? Because if Prestige Holdings had full complement of staff, they would not have to be constantly putting ads out saying that they're hiring. So if persons now want to come forward and take up these jobs in terms of the Venezuelans, and we're not even sure, they probably will not be frontline staff, all right? But there are jobs that the average Trinbagonian seems not to be interested in. Allow those who are willing to work. You can have these Venezuelans working in the agriculture sector, a sector that we have been grappling with for years now, and it needs much attention being paid to. So it really is how you look at it. What I think this shows us, this crisis, because the crisis, aside from the Venezuelan crisis that's taking place in Venezuela, this is a Trinidad and Tobago crisis that we're experiencing right now, where we have not put policy in place, we have not put practice in place as well to facilitate something like this happening. So it falls on us. This is our fault. This is the government's fault insofar as you are the implementer of legislation and policies. And if you have not produced a policy for asylum seekers, for persons who would come en masse to our country to be dealt with, then who is supposed to do it? Am I supposed to do it? Me? I am not in a position to go and write a policy or to sit in an office and direct staff to go and do so. That is why we elect a government. That is why we have technocrats in these ministries. So the direction and the leadership comes from above. But you take into consideration the reality of what is taking place. You liaise with the people, you find out, well, okay, this is how we need to do X, Y, and Z. We knew this was going to happen for some time now.
Yes, definitely.
It's not like if we woke up one morning and then we realize, well, there's an influx of immigrants in this country. We're seeing over the years steadily where immigrants are coming to Trinidad and Tobago from right around the Caribbean, even from Africa. When we look at the detention center, and we know that there are persons from as far as Africa in the detention center. So this is not something that has surprised us, but we don't take the time to put the systems and measures in place to treat with these issues. And that, for me, is our bigger problem. So you secure our borders on one end, which we're not doing effectively, but you secure our borders. And on the other end, you have the policies, the plans, the proposals that in the event that people do get in, how do we treat with it?
Yeah, no, you see, this is an issue that I think most people oversimplify it, right? So let's say, some people want to blame Prestige Holdings, because they think, okay, these Spanish people coming in, they're taking our jobs, right? But as you said correctly, if Prestige Holdings is not getting people to work these jobs, then what jobs they're taking, right? So that's one case. Now, the second argument, I'm not sure if it's for or against it, it's just an argument, is why can't Prestige Holdings get people for these jobs? Is it because they're not paying well enough? Because a lot of jobs, right? If you look at our minimum wage and then look at how much it is to rent somewhere, like you tell me what kind of a life can somebody live on minimum wage in Trinidad right now if they have no support system? Most people I know, they still live at home with their parents, right? They still have to rely on some kind of aid from outside of their salary. I don't know a single household that has a single parent income with two parents that could work. And just based on emolument income. So if there's a business owner, yes, that might be different, right? But somebody that just has an ordinary job, I don't know anybody that's able to support an entire family, a mortgage and a car, just the bare basics off of one job, right? So yes, the Spanish coming in and taking these jobs and stuff, and But what's the reason for us not wanting those jobs in the first place? Maybe these businesses are taking advantage of a situation. So you say now that, okay, we saw these jobs as not good enough for us, right? So these jobs did not meet a bare minimum of what would be livable on. So now these businesses, they realize, well, there's a group of people coming in that are willing to work for a salary that is below what is the minimum to survive on, because they're going to rent an apartment and, 20 of them will pack into there. So, they just holding the cash. And my question is, I don't know, whose fault is it? Because on one end, the company needs to look after their bottom line, their profit, right? On the other end, workers and citizens of Trinidad, I mean, you're not born to work Sunday to Sunday, 8 to 5 every day, frying chicken in KFC or something. You want to have the freedom and the ability to do other things with your life. So how could you blame somebody for not wanting to take on a job where they have to give up the best hours of the best years of their life to work? Nobody asking these questions. But
I would still say the blame falls on us, the individual in society, the collective in society, for this reason. You have a problem with a private organization, all right? And the private organization is operating within a particular legislative or policy framework. So it is doing its due diligence.
Yeah, they would not be expected to do anything else different.
Yeah,
given
if the
situation.
country's minimum wage is X, of course I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
If you want me to pay people more, well, raise the minimum wage, I'll have to comply. So we put our focus, energies, and effort into the wrong things. Let's lobby the government to increase the minimum wage or to enact a living wage, all right? To look at different ways. And I'm not even saying that the minimum wage is the problem, but you have the government there to put in place the right regulatory framework or system to ensure things are done where people are not exploited, all right? So that's why I say in one side it falls back on us. I can tell you from myself, since I finished secondary school, I've had a number of different jobs. I have worked in a herbal store selling herbal soaps and creams and lotions till I started my own herbal business where I was working in the market on a Sunday selling herbal products, making a good bit of money from that, walking up and down High Street with a big bag on my back selling shampoos and all of these different things.
You still sell it?
That was something a long time ago.
I was not getting interested in trying it.
I have worked car shows where I have been responsible for opening and closing a gate so these vehicles could enter the compound, dropping a rope, standing up for 12 hours and doing this. I've cleaned people's apartments for $200, all right? Dust down windows, this and the other. I have my allergies raised, did what I had to do. I've worked in the media. My first job in the media, I worked 3 months without a salary. And then after that, I started getting paid. Now I'm to the point where I have 2 streams of income. I'm doing very well for myself, for someone at my age. And the point in all of that is that I had to learn to creep before I walked. So if it is that you feel as though, well, I want a job that pays me X amount, but all I'm getting is this job, take this job, and while you're working this job, you apply for that job. You have to be realistic. No one owes you a job in this country. Not the government, not the private sector. When I think about these young men who stand up by these traffic lights, and as much as they may be an annoyance to some people, they're standing there and approaching to wash your windscreen for money, for whatever you would give them. They are productive citizens, the way I see it. They may recognize that, I don't have the education, I don't have the passes, I don't have the ability to go into the formal workplace. I am going to look for something that helps me make money. I would quicker give that person money than the person who just stands up with their hand outstretched like this, asking for $1. Because at least this person coming to clean my windscreen is providing a service, is earning their income. Too many people in Trinidad and Tobago are standing with their hand outstretched like this, not willing to wash a windscreen, not willing to go talk to someone and make an arrangement to pick their mangoes, pay them a percentage, and they go bag up the mangoes and go sell it in the market or sell it somewhere. I want people in this country to have that kind of mindset. Now, that mindset, it all comes back to we don't have an education system that allows for that kind of thinking, critical thinking, and so on. We don't spread that messaging in society. So it really is a chicken and the egg situation. Which do you do first? My thing is, you do things parallel. So you do that education at the same time, so on the ground, but at the same time, you build in the systems to accommodate that and to make sure that it is sustained.
Yeah, so that's why I was saying, like, I'm not sure who this argument was for or against. Like, it's just an argument. So, for instance, you would talk about, well, again, for your story, so you would have needed some sort of internal motivation, some kind of drive, and then just because of your mind, the way you think, you will see, well, okay, you know where you want to go, and you work in these jobs because you see in some sort of progression, something that you're working towards. That's the same thing with me. Like, I will quicker do a job where I get, almost nothing for it, as long as it allows me the opportunity to move forward, And that is why I start asking myself, what is the true cost of the wage that we pay people? Are we undervaluing their time? Are we exploiting the fact that there are more people and jobs to go around right now? Because if I pay somebody below minimum wage, right? Yes, I'm getting a service. Yes, the service he's providing me might be worth more than I'm paying him for it. But the real cost of it is the opportunity cost to him. By him spending this time and effort working this job, what opportunities is he giving up? If he reaches home 9 o'clock in the night, tired, he just wanna eat, sleep, shit, and go to sleep, right? When is he gonna get the chance to really think about his future, think about what he wants to do with his life, strategize in a way that would, promote creativity and entrepreneurship? So sometimes they're just struggling to make ends meet, and that's why I go back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We constantly stuck on the lowest rung, just barely trying to make ends meet. It's not the fault of the companies, because the companies just doing whatever mandated. They pay the minimum wage. Sometimes it's not the fault of the people, because I know I have a friend. She was a chemical engineer, right? Got fired from Petrotrin. She wasn't one of the lazy workers, right? She wasn't. She was on contract for a few years, so because she was on contract, she got no severance. All right, she has a master's in chemical engineering and had to sit down through a 2-hour-long interview with a panel of 4 people to apply for a job as an admin assistant, paying $4,000 a month. Now, what job will hire somebody with their master's degree and pay them $4,000 a month, right? So, it's a lot. We have to look at what is the opportunity cost of these systems that we perpetuate in. I know, yes, people are very against, people getting something for nothing. But if we have something like, let's say, universal basic income, right? I'm still on the fence about that. I heard arguments for and against it. But so, like, for me, let's say if I was getting a salary by doing nothing, I would enjoy that very much. But just because I get a salary for doing nothing does not mean I will sit down on my ass and do nothing. It now frees up my mind. It now frees up my time to really work on things that might not be financially profitable. Because a lot of the times, things that aren't financially profitable are the things that actually work the most. Like, I show how much work did you put into this progressive party that had no financial benefit.
Yeah. So I mean, it does have. It has no financial benefit, and
Exactly.
it will have no financial.
But the value of what you did.
Yeah.
You can't put a price tag on that. You know, and that's. Again, I'm not making an argument for or against anybody.
For sure.
I just giving these thinking points. When you're making an argument, I just think about this as well. Before you're so quick to blame us or blame the Venezuelans or blame the companies. Like, figure out what exactly is going on. Like, I think our situations in Trinidad are just oversimplified, so they see, Venezuelans taking our jobs. Let's go and blame Prestige Holdings. But it's a lot more complex than that. It's a lot more complex and heavily nuanced than that, And I would like to see people start to really respect their own intelligence and think about these situations more deeply and figure out where they want to go and what do we need to get us from here to over there.
Well, for one, just on one of the things that you mentioned in terms of a universal salary, I will not be in support of that. And for this very reason, you're giving people money and they're probably not educated on what to do with it. So you may find some people using that money to go to a casino, to go and play playway, to go and spend it on a gold chain, to put rims on their car and stuff. And I don't think that we are a mature enough society now to handle something like that. I would like to see universal services much as how we have universal education, universal healthcare, and so on. I want to see services so that if you have to access welfare, much as how we have these food cards and so on, there are certain things that you can get under that. You can't go and buy tobacco, you can't go and buy alcohol and so on. So there are restrictions on those things. You're expected to buy the basics that you and your family would need. Now, of course, there are people who take advantage of that, but at least the way I see it is that you're using this, or you're supposed to, the intent is to use it for these basic items alone. Whereas if I give you money in your bank account, you can use that for all kinds of nefarious activities. So I want to see services that work as well. So CDAP is a good idea in terms of its intent, but the way it's executed is the problem. And we need to have proper independent bodies monitoring and evaluating these programs that are put in place by the state.
Yeah, no, the thing is, okay, so it doesn't matter where money comes from, people will spend it on what they spend it on, right? So even with the universal basic income, yes, you'll have some people spend it on drugs, some people will spend it on rims for their cars, some people might spend it on tobacco, right? But just for you to be able to restrict it means you'll have to be able to monitor it. Just for you to be able to monitor it means that now you're going to have employ a whole team of people, just to monitor this program. Whereas if it's just a universal income, they can spend it on whatever they want. You need no form of monitoring, right? Yes, you will have some people spending it on bad stuff, but you'll also have people spending it on good things, and it will give people the opportunity to take financial risks. Like the guy buying rims, he could probably be taking rims to buy and sell, or rims to tear apart to figure out, if he could straighten a rim properly and start his own business. But by restricting him to say, no, you could only buy bread and diapers on this, well, he could never take the financial risk to buy things that do make fiscal sense to, get involved in those kind of entrepreneurial activities. So that's the counter argument to something like that.
You see, the thing is, I would anticipate that a universal salary might be, who knows, in our context, something like $1,500, $2,000 a month. I don't expect it to be a $5,000 or something like that. So I would not see, for me, I just will not see the link between someone using that $1,500 a month to go and start a rim company where they, or repairs or what have you. I think that should be for the basic things. Now, if you want to enter your entrepreneurial endeavors, that's where, okay, you go out and you work and you get the money to be able to invest in those other things. But at least when it comes to breakfast in the morning or lunch or whatnot, you have money to deal with that. To a point of yours, I think that employing people to do monitoring and evaluation will help stimulate the economy. I want to see more opportunities where, be it short-term employment rather than this CPEP and URP. I believe unemployment relief can come in the form of we want to digitize Trinidad and Tobago, all our records and stuff. You employ people for be it a 2-year period or however long, a bunch of people, you give them the skills, the opportunities, everything, and they be a part of that data entry. You have a steady stream of income coming in for this 2-year period, and you're getting experience as well. Because one of the things that we love to ask people in this country is for experience, but how do we expect them to get experience when they have no opportunities? So we need people now more than ever to help build out the systems that are necessary for this country to move forward. So to set up the agencies, to have the public entities, and monitoring and evaluation, because we have so many students coming out of university with the research skills that are necessary. We have so many persons coming out as social workers but have no opportunities. So things like that, I see those as opportunities for them to put what they've learned to practice. And I would really strongly say that it will cost, it's like a capital expenditure. You inject this money now, and it will save you billions down the road.
Not only that, but this will also stimulate.
It will stimulate the economy. Well. So you have people who have greater buying power, even if it just means $1,000 more than what they're accustomed to, or whatever it is. It's something that money is going to come back into the country. Even when you look at Venezuela as well, these Venezuelans coming here, they're going to be spending a large portion of their money right here in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, they will probably send back money for their family or what have you. But for as long as they are here, they are going to be buying. They are going, and VAT is being paid.
Yes, the question with that is, the money that they're using to buy things, is that money that would have already been used to buy things, or is that money that they are creating now? Because if they if they took a job from a trainee, just using basic argument. I know that's not the case, right? But let's say if they take a job from a trainee and they're spending this money now, they're not creating anything because this is money that just he can't spend. It's just somebody else different spending
But
it. You know?
what jobs are these Venezuelans taking? Realistically, what are they taking? They're taking bar jobs. They're taking, for lack of a better phrase, these menial jobs. You're not seeing a Venezuelan coming and taking an admin assistant job or a clerk 1 or clerk 2.
Well,
You're
they
not seeing
want
that.
to. Well, some of them want to be teachers now. I think they had some
No,
others
a
complaining
woman who
about
said
it,
that she was a teacher in Caracas and she
And
she
thing is,
does not want to
I
work in a
can't blame
bar.
her. I can't blame her for
I
that.
blame her not. She has her aspiration. Whether her aspirations line up with the reality is two different things. But I see that if she has these skills, she may be working because a lot of trainees, I don't know if you know, but a lot of trainees go abroad to places like I've been to Tokyo, I've been to Paris, where you have Trinbagonians, Caribbean people as well, teaching English to these persons in schools, and they go over there for like a year or two or whatever the case is. So we need Spanish teachers in Trinidad and Tobago. We need people who will come in, and it's that kind of immersion, a different way. So it's not necessarily saying when you go into the classroom, you're not speaking English and saying, well, this translates to that. It's that kind of conversational stuff. So if she wants, I'm sure she should be able to get through with something like that. But the reality is, many of them, the majority of these Venezuelans just want any kind of work. You're not going to see a Venezuelan.
So they open to be exploited.
Yeah, you're not going to see.
They are being exploited in a lot of ways.
You're not going to see a Venezuelan being the new CEO of NGC.
Well, you're not going to see me be the new CEO of NGC either.
So, and that's my thing.
Yeah, but to come back to something you're talking about, we're talking about these jobs like the digitization of our records and stuff, right? So if you're looking at unemployment relief in a form of giving people jobs that actually make sense. Now, if that is the argument, I fully support that because yes, I think having 40 people to cut one strip of grass on the side of the road when you could get one John Deere, lawnmower to do it, all you're doing, I would think it would be better to just give these people the money and tell them stay home because at least now they're free to do whatever. And yes, you might say they might go and buy drugs or whatever, or they might go and buy things that don't make sense. But guess what else somebody might buy? If they know that they don't have to buy only the necessities. Somebody might go and buy herbal soaps, something like that. They might be free to try new things. They actually have some studies going on. They had a study in the 60s in the States, and they almost passed the universal basic income. And the conservatives shut it down because they thought that it was too low, right? So they actually almost passed it. And then, later on, the study came out and they showed that divorce rates went up and the conservatives thought, no, we can't have that. And I think that was later shown to be not entirely true. But so the U.S. government has been, studied in the 60s, that's 50 years ago, and found it actually makes sense. They have, I think it's a bigger study in Canada right now and one in Sweden. I think it's Sweden, somewhere in Europe. I think that one is either a 1 year or 2 year study. So they have studies going on right now, and the results are very promising. Because at first I was like, the same thing as you. You give people money, they're going to spend it on shit that don't make sense. But you're seeing that you give people money, and it's like, well, wait, I'm looking at what these people will buy. But if somebody give me this money for free, what would I buy? And I realized, but the things I would buy would make sense. And when you try to actually have trust in other people till you realize, but this person not that much different than me. The majority of people will buy things that make sense.
But the only other thing that I would think about is economic volatility. So with Trinidad and Tobago, seeing that our economy is largely dependent on the energy sector and what we've been seeing taking place, let's say there is a sharp dip in our income, our revenues. We still have a responsibility to follow through with that universal basic salary. How then do we deal with that? So that would be one of my concerns. Would we have enough reserves? Would we have enough money put aside to treat with this? Because if pensions right now is a problem, you're hearing that, and when you think about pension, that in itself is a universal basic salary for persons, for retirees.
Right, exactly.
But if the NIB can't even manage its fund properly, and you have all these restrictions because the government is not updating the legislation to allow them to borrow or to invest rather in foreign foreign accounts beyond a certain threshold. We're having these problems now. Just imagine what would happen when you have to pay 1.4 million people a universal basic salary. So, I mean, this could be an ongoing discussion.
Like I could tell you why my argument is nice in theory, but will not happen in practice. And it's just because we don't have proper management of our resources. Because you mean to tell me, we literally getting money from the ground, right? No other Caribbean island has this influx of free money, this oil. We did nothing for this oil. We just, beyond existing, that was the only thing we did to get this oil. So this is free money coming into our economy, right? So if we were properly managing our economy, I think our economy should be able to be good without this natural resource, which other countries do have. So the fact that we have this, that is what, maybe $1 trillion in total by today. It's like, why aren't we not doing better? And it's because we just see in this here, and we, so since I've been about, I don't know, 5 or 10 years old, I hear about diversifying the economy.
Yep.
And you will come tell me 25 years later now, well, we can't do this because we're so dependent on oil, you know? I know it's not your fault, but I just say like this is something that do add up. Is like, yes, we know we're dependent on this. Yes, we know we need to diversify. But why are we not doing it? Why haven't we done it in 30 years, you know? We had 30 years of opportunity to do it. So what are we going to do when that runs out?
So, and that's why you are supposed to be using the money that you get from the revenues from what we have right now to start to fuel other industries, no pun intended. But in terms of, let's say, going solar, I don't understand why this country cannot go fully solar, or at least have up to 90% solar energy, or renewables rather. Let's have it broad as that, renewables in this country. It's, for some, a very ambitious goal or agenda, but it is possible. It is very possible. You've had, thanks to the intervention of Elon Musk and his companies, you've had, I think is in Morocco, an entire city powered by solar energy or renewables.
And I know I think it's Australia as well. I know the problem with solar power is that the supply of the solar power does not really meet the demand of the energy needed.
That's why you have storage. So you have
so what he did, he built the gigawatt. Anyway, he built this big power plant, and that was able to store it, and that's why he could run it entirely off of solar.
I could imagine just driving up the highway to Port of Spain and looking on my right and seeing central Trinidad, where we had those rice fields and so on, just being solar power, solar cells, those panels. I can see an entire field of that. And persons may think, well, oh gosh, look how that's looking, and the environment, this, that, and the other is doing a lot more for us than what you may think it's doing visually for you. And that could be enough to power, because we are 1.4 million people. When you think about New York, when you think about London, when you think about these major cities that has multiple times the amount of people that we have. We are an entire country. They are just a city, and they run more efficiently than we do here. So when you think about the mayor of New York being the equivalent of the prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and being able to do certain things there, and they having things run efficiently, why can't we do it in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, that has been my question. Just why haven't these things been done?
So it's political will. It's having this kind of divisiveness in society, or this big gap between citizens and the powers that be. There are so many things that we can point out as issues that can be easily fixed. When we think about our separation of powers taking place as well, why don't we have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary separated? Right now, they're blurred lines. You have the executive sitting in the legislature, in so far as the prime minister, these ministers, and so on. And then you have the judiciary dependent on funding from central government. So at any point in time, central government could cripple the operations of the judiciary. And right now, you're seeing where the government has legislated for certain changes within the judiciary, and the judicial officers are up in arms about whether or not they're going to have their jobs and so on. So everything is kind of wrapped up in one. And you have persons like the Basil Pandey, who's been speaking about constitutional reform for years now. But then people will jump up and say, well, you were there, why didn't you do it then? This, that, and the other. My thing is that, all right, let's not focus on the fact that he was there and he did not do it. Let's listen to what he has to say and see if it's something that will be applicable in our context right now. We're so quick to dismiss people because you was there before and you thief the money and this, that, and the other. Okay, be that as in me, let's still thief your ideas.
Yeah,
You
don't throw the
understand?
baby out with the
Yeah, so
bathwater.
let's listen to what you have to say. It may not mean that we're going to elect you back into office, but in the national interest, we would listen to your proposal, see if it's something that works for us and implement it. But because we're so drawn along party lines, as well as based on what you look like and which part of the country you're from and all of this nonsense, that allows the narrative to be written in a particular way. It allows us to stay stagnant, because I don't even think right now my biggest conundrum is deciding or figuring out whether or not Trinidad and Tobago is stagnant or regressive. We're definitely not progressive. We're definitely not moving forward.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
not for a
really
while now.
whether we're stagnant or we're regressive. So I have not come up with the answer to that as yet, but that's where it lies.
All right, well, I guess we could start wrapping up. So just a couple of questions. What chance do you think you have of being the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago?
I think I have a good chance as anybody else in this current context. And I always see, because people will ask, so is it that you're just going up to make a statement or something? No, when you enter a race to win. Yeah, there's no ifs, no buts, or maybes about it. And I think that I have what it takes to provide leadership and to unite people, and that is what this country needs more than ever. It's not just about having a geologist to run the affairs of a country. It's not about just having someone who is decorated with all these degrees and stuff to run the country, but having someone who is what is necessary in the time in which you exist. So right now we need unity in Trinidad and Tobago. We need someone who can speak the language of the people. We need someone who understands what is taking place and can muster people together to present these solutions, because no prime minister in this country is ever actually prepared to become prime minister. What people are prepared with is the skills that they have picked up over the years in practice, in educating themselves, in experiences, and so on. So we need leadership in this country who will bring people from across the divide to the table and say, you are an expert in this subject matter. We've identified you as someone who has solutions. Help us to make this country better. It's not about just picking people on my side alone. So I'm only going to bring progressives to the table and these are all the people who are going to get jobs. No, of course I have no problem bringing someone who is a supporter of the Red Party, someone who's a supporter of the Yellow Party, someone who was with the Green Party, whatever it is, to come and hold a position in the governance structures of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's someone coming into office with that kind of thinking will make the difference. And I think that's what I bring to the table. I'm not blinded by these party divisions. I'm not blinded by people who are of a particular race or anything. Look at me, I'm mixed. How can I ever think about, okay, I need to give favor to this one or that one and stuff? More than anything, I'm Trinbagonian, all right? And that is what matters to me. Once you have the skills, once you have the ability, once you're above board, transparent, accountable, and so on, I want you to have a chance to help steer this country in the right direction.
Now, a couple things. Well, new third parties have not fared well in our elections, right? But I could honestly say I like a lot of your ideas. I support a lot of your ideas. I think your heart and passion in the same place. I support your ideas so much. You made a guest appearance in the original promo video for this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. But my thing is that, okay, if history is any indication, I don't think you will see a lot of results in this political race in the next elections. But for somebody like you, what you need to know is that, things, well, I'm sure you know this already, things take time.
Of
so
course.
it's just perseverance. So yeah, you might get 5 votes this time, you might get 10 votes next time, and then you might get 20,000 votes 15 years from now, But I think that's probably why a lot of our politicians still in power, just because they've been there so long, Trinis don't like to really jump on anything from the start. Like we're very, very wary and very slow to trust something, So I will say, I just hope, regardless of whatever the results are on this election, I just hope you don't get disenchanted by it and think that, and I hope you don't start to question yourself,
No, I'm telling you, I've spent the 2 years questioning that and came to the conclusion that this is the way forward. Now, I do have a 10-year strategy in place, but there is still a possibility that, who knows, the Progressive Party could form the next government. I'm not naive. I am very realistic. I'm not blinded by optimism, but I just know that we're existing in a time now where people want something different. And I can break it down to you in figures. You have 30-something% going red, 30-something% going yellow, and 30-something% usually that goes neither way.
Yeah. I think it was 34 and 33 last election.
So if I can build on that non-voting population or the undecideds, or I wouldn't even say non-decideds because they decide, none for either of those two. If I can build on that, why not? When you had the COP in 2007 amassing 144,000 votes, 20-something% of the electorate in 2007, had they stuck it out by 2010, they may have actually, without the support of the UNC, been able to make some headway in terms of the governance.
And then by going and aligning with the UNC, they just kind of soured.
It was short-term gains.
Yeah, and they soured the entire platform for any other third party to come now, because now anytime a third party come, they're going to be like, all right, so who you really want to try to team up with once you start getting support? And that's it. So I think that actually created more problems than it solved.
And let me tell you, and this was logic before Duke made it logical in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's say the Progressive Party is able to amass a particular number of seats. Let's say you get 4. 3, whatever it is, even 1. And you have the two major political parties in a deadlock. That one seat that belongs to the Progressive Party can go either way and cause whichever to become the government. And in effect, we would have a lot of bargaining power moving forward. Now, it's not something that I'm saying definitely we're going to do, but with all cards being on the table, there are options. And I would be guided by the people around me, the country, and what we're feeling at that juncture. How should I move? If I have to just say, you know what, no, I will keep my one seat and humble myself and sit down in Parliament and allow whoever to work it out, so be it. But if I see it being beneficial to align for the purpose of providing governance, not just simply to get in and we reach, I would make the appropriate decision. But it is very, very, very possible to walk away from 2020 with a number of seats in that election. Just looking at patterns, just looking at the time that we're in, the feeling on the ground, I am confident that more than just some damage would be done, that we would really and truly change the trajectory of this country come 2020.
So my one question is, I looked on your website where you could sign up to be a member of the Progressive Party.
Yes.
But you said that you're not, I think it was number 2 said you're not allowed to be a member of any other party.
Yeah, because, if you're going to align with, it comes like, you can't have dual citizenship when it comes to parties. You could have that with countries. But even with dual citizenship, if you want to become a minister of government or MP in Trinidad and Tobago, you can't hold dual citizenship. So I am not going to, or we are not going to have you be a member of one party and then you're a member of our party as well. So essentially what you'll be doing by joining our party is relinquishing membership in any other party. And I think that's only fair. Now you can sign up currently being a member or holding a party card for another party. You can sign up, and once you accept our terms, once we agree to allow membership and you accept our terms, it means relinquishing power. So anyone right now who is a member of any other political party wanting something different, wanting to join the Progressive Party, you are free to sign up, apply for membership, be considered, and once accepted, just know you will have to relinquish that membership.
So what does this membership give somebody? Like if I were to sign up, what does that mean?
All right. So for one, it definitely does not mean you're going to get kind of financial rewards or any material rewards. Just putting that out there. But you have the ability to vote in the decision-making processes within the party. You are there to help shape what the party looks like. You can stand as candidates in elections upcoming. So those are just the traditional benefits that one gets from being a part of a political party. Now, further to that, being a part of a political party, when we have events, activities, we have, let's say, grants and scholarships, and those are some of the things that I want us as a party to be able to extend, you will benefit from that. So it's about taking care of your own membership in that stead. It comes like joining a trade union. Ideally, as a member of the trade union, more than just representation, you should be benefiting from programs and services. I remember when Petrotrin closed down, a lot of people were asking, well, because I think the OWTU had started talking about providing grants to persons and small loans and stuff. And my question was, where were these things all the time? When you had money, when you had things coming in, why didn't the OWTU, and someone posed this to me, why didn't the OWTU have a nursery set up? Because your membership are workers, made up of workers, and they would probably have children and have to think about, where do I carry my child to be taken care of. So you may have a subsidized cost. Being a member of that, that's also another stream of income for the union, but it's a benefit. So things like that needs to be implemented within the party. I cannot, from where I sit right now, say whether or not the other political parties have things like that, where you're getting scholarships and grants and those kinds of opportunities. But surely under the Progressive Party, those things will be instituted.
Yeah, and then I guess because your party is now starting up, you don't want to give other parties the opportunity to sort of come in and like take over your party, by just like, I don't know, send 1,000 members to go and sign up as part of the Progressive Party.
That was also when I thought about.
So I guess that makes sense. I was just wondering.
Yeah. Well, when I thought about what my decisions were in terms of elected politics in this country, I thought about utilizing the existing parties and getting young people to mobilize, and let's infiltrate these parties, sign up a bunch of young people to get in there, and on the first election we just vote in new leadership and we take over the party there. And that is still something that is possible to do. But when I thought about the entire organization, the cultures, the traditions that have been ingrained in there, that would be a lot more work to do in undoing all of that, and then getting people to buy into this whole new leadership and vision.
Yeah, because you'll have to undo whatever bad practices they have, and then you will have to constantly battle against the grooming to make them one of what they were.
So I said simply, let me leave the people with the party and start our own thing, where you have persons who want a difference in Trinidad and Tobago, who want to see better for our country. Let's come together. Let's just work together, man, because we can't just sit down in our schools. We can't just sit down on the pavements. We can't just sit down in our living rooms and just talk. We need to put action. And that has been something that I've learned a lot recently in terms of even marketing and communications. I did my undergrad in communications, but I feel as though I've been learning a lot more through experiences, and that tends to usually be the case.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
when you look at something on Facebook, and you see an ad, or even if you are going to sponsor an ad, it always asks you for an action, to take an action, so that you're going to give persons who come in contact, who interface with the ad, to take action. So visit website, click here, join, visit profile, whatever it is. You are calling people to take an action, all right? Sign up here. So our approach has to be as well, you call on people to take an action. So the party, join the Progressive Party so that we can take action together. Because I can be educating you and just imparting all of this information, but to what end? Am I just giving you information for giving you information's sake? No, it should be giving you information so that you're empowered, so that you take greater action in the country by putting in place the things that are necessary. When you mobilize people, it should be to the end of getting them to do something. So let's put people in positions of authority or governance who will work in our favor. Let's go out there and vote. Let's challenge the people who are coming up, the candidates and so on. So we have to be clear on what we're asking people to do. Don't just come and join the Progressive Party because it's new and we want you to join. We have an agenda. We have an agenda of ensuring that Trinidad and Tobago gets the best representation possible. That is the thing that underlies this. Even if that means representation that comes from another third party, that is something worth considering.
As long as the ideas line up with what's best for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, I could in the future decide, well, based on how things go, the Progressive Party for me not making any sense again or whatnot, because I've seen something in somewhere else that really would allow this change to happen, and I will graciously step aside. I remember people have asked me this question, and I found it initially as, well, how did I ask me this? But I've come to the understanding and being humble enough to accept. People have asked me, so if someone is challenging your leadership or comes up and they say, well, hey, I think that I could be leader or whatnot, would you allow that? And I said, yes. No, especially yes, because it means that there may be somebody who has the experience that is necessary, who has what it takes to provide the kind of leadership for this party. I would be satisfied knowing that I provided the foundation for this, for something different, a space for the people to come together.
And you could step aside and become a facilitator to help them further your
I have no problem with that. Of course, I would want to ensure that whoever is challenging, I put up a good fight, because I want to bring out the best in you, or to be able to see how you would operate under pressure and all of that. But if at the end of the day, the decision is they want this person, the will of the people, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's the same way I think. I think all ideas are made to be attacked, right? Because you can't get to the truth without questioning the ideas you have, you know? So if you have an idea and you're not allowed to question it, then I don't think that's an idea worth having. You have nothing to tell you what that idea is worth if it's never been put to the test.
I've served in many capacities in different youth organizations, international, regional, local, and quite often people ask me, so you're not going back up, you're not going to run again, you're not going to do this, and I'm always saying, why should I? There are people out there who deserve the chance and the opportunity that I once received. Let me allow them to come in with their fresh ideas and different things. If it were that, okay, I'm bringing these ideas and people like it all the time, I can be in one position for years upon years, much like what we have in Trinidad and Tobago with these political parties. But I have to, within myself, recognize that it is important that at some juncture, I have to step aside. I have to allow others to pick up, because I might be blinded by the time in which I came up. So at that point in time, my approach was what was necessary, but after some years, that approach is archaic to an extent. I need to allow people of this time to rise to the occasion and go out there. So that's one of the ways that I look at it as well.
All right. Well, yeah, I think we'd call it a day there, because I only have so much space that I could record. Once I start crossing the hour and a half mark, it's like, oh shit, I need to make sure the camera is still recording.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe sometime next year when things pick up, we could see where you're at. We could do this again. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for coming. Thanks for taking time out on your Sunday to do this. I wish you all the best with your... the launch is next week Sunday,
16th of June.
This is on
Harris Promenade. San Fernando.
That's opposite the police station.
Well, a little further down, opposite the Catholic Church, so in the amphitheater.
But in that
not by the bandstand. So yeah.
Okay, I know where that is.
But for persons who want more information about the Progressive Party, as I mentioned earlier, progressives.tt. You can also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Progressive Party. We're also on LinkedIn, and we will be putting out content there. So this is a party for the people, by the people. It just took me, I guess, to start it, but I want this to be something that people buy into, that they accept, that they build as we go along. So anything, feel free to question it. Feel free to challenge it, because we want the best coming out of this. So,
and I'll have links to all of that in the video description below and stuff.
Sure.
So again, thanks for coming. One last shout out and thank you to Robert Paris for allowing us to use here today. And I guess that's all for today.
Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. See you later.